Bob Mills Weather Center, Oklahoma weather expert, Lacey Swope.
Lacey, as we come to you, multiple school districts now making the call. We just got the breaking word that OKCPS, Oklahoma City Schools, totally closed. It's an old school snow day, if you will.
Wow, okay.
Piedmont virtual. They just made those calls, and we're getting them coming in.
Yeah, more also virtual this morning. Deer Creek District is closed this morning as well. Choctaw, Nakoma Park closed. Old-fashioned snow day there as well.
That's right. A lot of the leaders waking up and seeing what we're seeing, Lacey.
And this is what's happened overnight. Folks, if you're just waking up while you were sleeping, we've had light freezing rain move in all across the metro, all across western sides of the state to the southwest as well. South central Oklahoma, you haven't had much additional icing overnight, but what that has done with us being in the 20s is it has laid down a glaze of ice, and it is so very slick and hazardous. Our storm trackers have been out and they're saying we haven't seen this slick in years. Now, the problem is, which is a good thing, but also it's kind of a catch-22, ground temps are so warm that in some areas, roads are wet, and what we're seeing is folks, when they get those wet roadways, they think, okay, I'm good to go. They get their speed up, they hit those patches of ice, especially elevated surfaces, and they're having serious accidents. It's not just the elevated surfaces. Some of the main roads are so very slick. Do you want to go out to Brandon Pennell first? Brandon, I know your windshield was iced up. Folks, slips and falls could be deadly as well. This could be very serious accidents. Just slipping on your driveway, your front step, your deck. Give us an update, Brandon. Oh, can you paddle?
This is the south side of Oklahoma City on Western Avenue and basically I-240. As I came in from Norman, I-35 overall is pretty good, but like Hank was saying earlier, it's so deceiving and literally life-threatening because the difference between the other day and today is the other day you could see the sleet packed onto the road. Today you're driving along and you just assume that it's wet, and then boom, there's ice, and you're doing 65 miles an hour. And it can be a life changer real quick. Back to you.
That's such a great update. You don't see this like you did the sleet. That was such a wake-up call for folks. They see the white and you're like, oh, okay, I know there's something going on here. This morning, most of this is ice. Most of this is causing a skating rink on the surfaces. Hank Brown, you said it best earlier. This is a morning where if you can just not get out and travel for a little while, please stay home. Give us an update, Hank.
And education systems, all of that kind of stuff that I get a lot of texts from. Today is the day to cancel school or at least delay it. I think once the sun comes up, it'll help this. But right here is a good example. My hood is solid ice. You can see in that picture. The parking lot in front of me appears to be wet. And as I just turn the camera a little bit, that is all solid ice. So as I was driving around out by the airport, I actually was on 104th Street. And the bridges were a given. They were absolute ice. But it was so slick in some of the areas out here, just idling, no throttle whatsoever, just idling. Cars are going sideways. It's that slick. And then like Brandon said, you drive on the road and it appears to be wet and people are getting up to speed. I exited off of I-44 and the off-ramp was very, very slick. Well, if you're coming off the highway at 50 or 60 miles an hour, you know, it's just a recipe for disaster this morning. So, and like you said earlier, your sidewalks and your driveway are so slick right now, it could be a life-changing event, how slick it is. So if you can delay going into work or you can, you know, delay start times a few hours, it would be worth it this morning. Back to you, Lacey.
Update, Hank. Absolutely very vital information for folks this morning. Now, this is not going to last. The precip has become very light, still causing additional slick spots. But as we get through mid-morning, we're going to see improvement. This will not last all day. So if you can just pump the brakes here for a little bit, hold off, don't go out and check your mail early this morning. It will definitely get better. Right now, we are in the thick of it. Slick and hazardous across the metro, down to the southwest, still some slick spots off towards the east and the south. Watch the bridges for sure. Sidewalks, driveways, your front curb, your patio, everything with a glaze of ice that you will not be able to get traction on. Now, between now and 9 a.m., light freezing rain, light drizzle. It's ending, it's winding down, but slick and hazardous and improving between 9 a.m. and noon. All the precip comes to an end. We climb above freezing. We'll have sunshine. It's going to be a lot better. But right now, one of the main impacts is we're sitting at 100 hours hours below freezing. So as that rain is falling as a liquid, it becomes ice on contact with all surfaces. And here's how much we've seen. You look at these numbers, like that is not a lot. It's less than 1/10 of an inch of freezing rain across most of the Oklahoma City metro. That's plenty to give us a glaze of ice. A thin glaze is very dangerous. Now we've got 1/10 of an inch in Kingfisher, and there are some worse conditions from Greenfield to Weatherford to Colony to Lakiva, back to the Cherokee Trading Post, and even back down into southwestern Oklahoma through Caddo County down to Lawton. There's been a hole where the dry air has been in place where you haven't had much off towards the east and down to the south. You get from Sulphur down into south central Oklahoma. Also, slick spots reported. So let's get to radar. Let me show you what's going on. It doesn't look impressive. It doesn't look like much. This is light freezing rain, but it's now moving up to Stillwater into the Tulsa area along the Turner Turnpike. Conditions are about to get worse along the Turner Turnpike, along Route 66. Still getting some spotty showers from Colony to Cordell. We're hoping this comes to an end in the next hour or so. We'll still have slick spots around for a while. It is so very light from Edmond to Piedmont to Luther. Light freezing drizzle in Moore, in Norman, and it's spotty from Pauls Valley to Holdenville. So radar, not impressive, but the damage is already done. It's 28 degrees. Temperatures are in the teens in the northwest. By the way, skies are clear in northwestern Oklahoma. You're going to see sunshine once the sun comes up. Wind's not a major factor this morning. It'd be nice if the winds were a little stronger. That would help dry the roadways. Right now, that's not happening. Everything winds down by 9, and we dry it out. We warm it into the 40s later today. 46 degrees. 50s in northwestern Oklahoma. That's the culprit. That's the problem right there coming out over Texas. We'll still provide some precip later today in southeastern Oklahoma. You notice this morning chances very spotty, very slight down to the south. Still dealing with freezing drizzle, light freezing rain in the metro, and this makes its way off towards the east this afternoon as light freezing rain, maybe some light sleet. So the totals, this is not a major ice storm. No power line issues, no tree damage. We're not seeing that sort of an event. But this is enough. This is really sometimes some of the most deadly scenarios in Oklahoma is freezing drizzle and light freezing rain because of how serious accidents can be. So please be careful. Lows tonight down into the 20s. Tomorrow we're into the 40s and 50s. And guys, your Saturday, 50s and 60s are on the way. We just got to get through these next few hours. That's why we're on. That's why our trackers are out. We're bringing you these updates so you can stay safe. We got a lot of improvement on the way. Next week, we'll track another storm. Back to you guys.